Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers Preview. I'm really excited for this show. I'm not even sure why. I mean, there's not really anything special going on. I just am really amped up to talk about the Steelers. Maybe it's because we're all stuck at home, and maybe this is that one little slice of social gathering that we get to have, albeit via the internet. But with me, as always, my two good friends, Bryan Anthony Davis. What's going on?
I've changed my name to Quentin Quarantino.
How long you saved that one?
just for a couple hours.
There you go. Deputy Dave Schofield, what's going on?
Oh, not too much. I'm glad to do this. It's just nice to not have to think about other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And as everyone is saying in the live chat, we have 27 people that have joined us already. And we hope that everyone's staying safe. We hope that you're abiding by the guidelines that you're supposed to be abiding by, yada, yada, yada. I could go on for days, but we're glad that you're here, period. If you want to help out the podcast, I'll say it right off the get, and that is like the video. We have 37 people now in the live chat. It's growing rapidly. Please go and like this video. If you're watching on your cell phone, all you have to do is close out the live chat, hit the thumbs up button, go right back to the live chat. You won't miss a thing. Likes help. Subscriptions help. We're almost at 5,300 subscribers, I believe, on YouTube. Follow us, social media, everything. BehindTheSteelCurtain.com was built to be your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers needs, and I do believe that is the case. So, and these two gentlemen provide a lot of content for that said site. All right, gentlemen, let's get things off started with let's talk about the headline, and that is we're ranking positional needs. Now we're what, 3 weeks out, Dave, from the draft?
We are exactly 3 weeks from the first round of the 2020 NFL draft.
Love it.
All right. Yeah, so 3 weeks. So this week, probably this weekend, maybe Sunday, I'll put out my very first team needs rankings, and I'm going to kind of do this verbally on the air as well as Bryan and Dave. What we're doing is we're taking the top 5 team needs in our opinion. So these are our opinions. Everyone's entitled to their own. We might agree, we might disagree, and that's okay. But we're going to rank them as the most glaring team need and then our 5th team need. So obviously 1 is the paramount, 5 not as important but still important. Who wants to go first? Any volunteers?
So we're starting with 1, right? We're not starting with 5, right?
We could go. Let's do it this way because we have our production meeting was very lackluster today. Bryan barely did anything, and so this quarantine's killing us, man. We're just gonna go one by one. So we'll all do number 1, and then we'll go. Is that okay, or do you all?
I'm
Bryan?
social distancing myself from you guys.
All right, very good. Let's do it that way. We'll do it that way. We'll go off the fly. So everyone will say what you think the top team need is. If one of us disagrees, we'll challenge you on air, and then you can explain yourself. So Bryan, you go ahead. What is your top team need?
With number 1,
Yes.
I think the number 1 team need is still outside linebacker, edge rusher.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the top team need?
I think that is the top team need at this juncture because of what you're facing next year. You've got a 1-year rental possibly in Bud Dupree and not a lot of depth behind him.
Okay. All right. Even though that person would be nothing but a depth player, right? You're not expecting an outside linebacker.
Are we talking for the draft?
Well, yeah, we're just talking about the draft. We're not talking about free agency. We're talking about for the upcoming draft.
I'm still thinking that unless somebody falls to them, they're going outside linebacker number 1. They're going edge. And look at Wes. Wes is my boy. He's agreeing with me.
Well, let's just say this. For number 1 team need, that wasn't my number 1. That was my number 2. I think there's another need, but I don't think they need to draft it as high. I'm with Bryan with drafting that at the top, and that's because I think if they take an edge rusher high, that's going to tell us really what their plans are with Bud Dupree. If they feel that they can get an extension done, and like I said, I want them to get an extension with him, but not for more than what it costs per year with the franchise tag right now. It needs to be less than that. If he thinks he's worth that much or more, then this is going to be it for Dupree. So that's why the higher you take one, the more that might tell what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing there. But you need that other guy, that next guy that's going to be on the field a good bit as part of the rotation, because TJ has to come out and take a blow, and that Dupree isn't going to be out there every single snap, and that's assuming that they're both healthy all year. You need that next guy. Is it Ola? Is it Tuzar? I don't know. That's why I'm okay if they draft that high, and that's why that was my number 2 need.
So what's your number 1?
Inside linebacker, because
Okay.
they lost too many of them, because they lost Mark Barron and they lost Tyler Medikevich, even though he was the guy that we hoped never stepped on the field at inside linebacker.
He was not an inside linebacker.
No, I agree. We did not want to see him on the field, but he was
just
your
like
number.
Jordan Dangerfield is not a safety.
Well, yeah, but I mean, when you're talking about your number 3 and then your number 4, I mean, they're both gone. That's assuming that you had Vince Williams ahead of Mark Barron, which I did because of his run stopping ability. But look how much they played Vince last year, because they like to get him off the field in those passing situations. I almost messed it up. I almost did a Jeff Hartman. Ulysses Gilbert III. Is he going to be that guy? He could be, but we don't know. We know they loved him as a special teams guy until he got hurt. He had more special team snaps than anybody until he got hurt. But we don't know about that. So even if Gilbert is the guy, you still wouldn't. I mean, we're going to talk about that position more, but that, to me, that's my number 1. I don't think they have to do it high in the draft, but they at least need more bodies at that position.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with all of you with my number 1. I'm going to say wide receiver. And this stems from 2 things. Number 1, it is a ridiculously deep wide receiver group. And so I feel like you could get a player with a 2nd round pick, even a 3rd round pick, that could get on the field and play right away, because that's how deep the wide receiver class is. Number 2, on the standard is the standard last night, Lance and I were talking about what the offense is missing. And we both agreed it's a player to take the top off of the defense. We referenced back to when Martavis Bryant was on the team and how even when he just lined up on the outside, he automatically took a high safety with him every time, because the threat was always there that he was going to go deep and you didn't want to get burned for the big play. Now, the debate was, is Deion Kane that guy? Well, we don't know. We don't know. We hope that the coaches know more than we do. But from what we saw on film, it's possible. But I say with this class, you get a wide receiver. I think that's number 1 for me. It's not a cut on Juju. It's not a cut on Deontay Johnson or James Washington. Certainly not Ryan Switzer. My goodness. But I think wide receiver is number 1 for me. What's number 2? We know, Dave, you went outside linebacker 2. Mm-hmm. Brian, what's your number 2?
I'm going with RB, and I'm not talking about Arby's, which is actually, that's not for roast beef, by the way. We've talked about that before. Yes, but when we talk about running back, I'm looking at them getting a possibility of having one of those guys drop. I saw one 7-round mock draft that had both Jonathan Taylor and J.K. Dobbins dropping to them at 49, and that mock had them go Jonathan Taylor. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm taking I'm taking a running back if you have one of the top ones there. Now, I'm not reaching for a running back at 49, but if one of them's there, they're going for one of those big guys that's a home run type of player for this team. I think they'll go ahead and pull the trigger on it. Think about this. Next year, when you're looking at TJ Watt possibly being a free agent, they're not going to let him get to that because they're going to go ahead and not franchise tag him, but they're going to go ahead and pick up his 5th-year option. But you have 2 other guys in that draft, Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner. Regardless of James Conner's health, if James Conner is healthy and has a great year next year, you're still probably looking at a face-off between he and Juju. If Juju rebounds and has a great year, who do you go with? The number 1 wide receiver or Conner, who is still a question mark because of his health that's always going to be hanging over his head. So they're probably going to want to replace them with a higher caliber guy. And I'm not talking Benny Snell Jr. I have no problem with Benny Snell football. But the problem with that is I don't believe he is the dream number 1 running back for that team.
I went with inside linebacker as my second team need because I think that when you let Mark Barron go and Matakevich, which, by the way, Buffalo Rumblings, which is the SB Nation Bills site, emailed me and they gave me like 5 questions to answer about this new acquisition. Tell us a little bit about the player we just got. I was as nice as I could be. Let's just put it down. They were asking, what does he bring for inside linebacker? Nothing.
Like,
he's a tackler.
4.5 million per year worth of anything.
No, I told him, I said he's a tackler. I said, so maybe goal line, because he did have some goal line reps for the Steelers, short yardage possibly. Like, what about coverage? No, you don't want him in coverage. You don't want him in coverage. So that's a quick side. But I went inside linebacker.
We don't want Vince Williams in coverage, who was better than we didn't want John Bostic in coverage when he was on the team. Yeah. He was better than him, and that was still better than Tyler Matakevich.
You're right. You're right. Now, I went with inside linebacker. We talked about that already. So let's go to number 3. Brian, what's your number 3 team need? We're going top 5 here, just joining us.
I don't want to do a Costanza jerk store and wait till later. Buffalo Rumblings will be Buffalo Grumblings after they see Matakevich play. Sorry. Number 3, offensive line.
Okay. Any specific?
Yeah.
Interior offensive line.
That's my number 3 as well. Interior offensive line.
Yeah, okay. I'm looking at a center or a guard. Pouncey's getting really long in the tooth, and we saw some rust last year. That could be situational, but his backup right now is only there for a 2-year deal, and he's long in the tooth. He just turned 31 last week in Wisniewski, so you really want to go ahead and look at that interior offensive line. DeCastro, he was drafted in 2012. That's another guy that's getting some age on him. I think he'll be there for a while, but you really need to address with probably a high pick in the interior offensive lineman.
Anything to add to that, Dave, since you had the same?
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. When he said offensive line, I'm going specific and saying interior offensive line, which is funny because, I was looking at what the Steelers need and not what's best in the draft, because the draft is very tackle heavy. Interior offensive line, I wouldn't be thrilled with that in the second round because there's not a lot of quality there, but there should be some quality in the third round. That's just about where those guys are projected.
Right.
But when you have basically right now your 3 main people who I would say right now for your interior would be Pouncey, DeCastro, and Wisniewski. All their ages start with 3. And is that really what you want from your 3 interior offensive linemen? Then you say, well, in order to get that down to a 2, you've got to move who was your starting right tackle for 15 games last year into the interior. Now, I don't have a problem moving Matt Filer there if that's going to be what's best for the Steelers, but you also have to remember that. And he would be the youngest guy that has any experience playing there, because other than that, the only thing they have is J.C. Hassenauer at center and Derwin Gray off the practice squad and like that. So that's what you got. You need to get younger, and it's okay if it's someone that you don't even expect to play a snap this year.
Yeah. No, so you guys I don't mind that at all, but I went with running back as 3rd because I feel that even though they have a decent stable of backs, and Dave wrote a very good article for the site about how they don't need to add a running back to the roster in the 2020 draft or prior to the 2020 season, I think that they can add talent there just for the reasons that Brian said earlier. You can never have too many playmakers, and they still could use a playmaker at running back. Maybe they can get that. We'll see. Before we go on to our 4th, Gaming with Gio puts $2 in the tip jar. This is a longtime watcher, diehard Steeler fan from Denver. Thank you, Gio. We appreciate that. Glad you're tuning in live. Robert says, people hit the like button. As always, help us out by liking the video. Let's go to number 4. Brian, what's your 4th team need?
Safety.
No, that's mine.
Agreed.
That's mine too. Are we all 3?
Agreed.
We all 3. Yeah.
You need some depth. We talked about it on StatGeek a little bit, even about how you could, if the right safety is. I don't really know what's available there at safety. I don't think there's anything much there that would be really jump out in their round 2. I don't know what it looks at deeper down, but if anything, you need that dime package safety. I mean, unless you're also going to have Cam Sutton come in and play that, you just need some depth there more than anything. And if you took a safety high, they could see the field in sub package football in their rookie season. So it's not like it would be impossible for them to get in. They just most likely wouldn't be a starter unless they balled out and knocked off Terrell Edmonds.
Let's just say Minka Fitzpatrick is on an island, and not a fantasy island, because he's just on an island all by himself. Terrell Edmonds, we're going to find out who he is. If he has a breakthrough year, it better be in year 3, or they're going to start labeling this guy a little quicker than some have already labeled him. We don't know what you have with Marcus Allen. I think the best Marcus Allen is 50 some years old in retirement. I just don't think it's number 27. And then the only thing great about Jordan Dangerfield is his first and last name. You combine Michael Jordan with Rodney Dangerfield, that's awesome, but he plays nothing like that. In fact, he's more like Rodney Dangerfield because he plays comically, but he's not that great of a player. He's a special teams demon. Those are a dime a dozen.
Right. They just need a player that might be able to come in, and Lance and I spoke about this on multiple shows. I know you guys have as well. The potential for Edmonds to slide down into the box more and take that Mark Barron role is a possibility. You would need someone then to cover the back end, and they would need to find someone with those coverage skills. So that's going to be a very specific skill set that they're going to be looking for. So we will see how that pans out. Last but certainly not least, your 5th team need. Brian, what do you have?
Wide receiver. And I know you've all talked about it. It is a deep drafted wide receiver. I expect Juju to eventually sign a new contract for this team, but there's a possibility that he does not. I like Deontay Johnson. I like Jay Wash, but you need that 4th guy. And my gosh, with the potential that you have at wide receiver right now, yes, I said the P word, but what you have at wide receiver, the other playmakers in Vance and Eric Ebron, even your playmakers out of the running back position as receivers, you have a lot of options for Ben Roethlisberger. Imagine one more that could come in there and turn heads like crazy, keeping guys fresh. Wow, they could be dangerous if they add one more playmaker, and it being a wide receiver.
What about you, Dave? What's your 5th?
Okay, when we get down to 5, I kind of look at it as which highest of the luxury picks would you like, is what I think. And when I say a luxury pick, it's that if you don't add a player at this position right now, it's okay. But if you do as an upgrade, then good. Meaning if they always draft a wide receiver at some point. If they go after a big dynamic wide receiver in round 2, that's an upgrade. I'm okay. But to me, that's a luxury pick. And I think the Steelers are set up perfectly for luxury picks this year, which is great. I feel the same way about running back. I think that's a luxury pick. I don't think it's a need. Another one that I think is a luxury pick that I think is, because it could turn into a need, that's going to be my number 5, is offensive tackle. That because it's so deep in this draft, to go ahead and get one at some point, if it's someone that you think, maybe it's your right tackle for this year to move Filer down. Maybe it's your left tackle in waiting. Maybe not. I mean, I know you have Chooks, you have Banner, you have all those other options, but so it's not like you're thin at the position, but you still need to be looking down the road, and this might be the draft to do it.
I agreed with you. I was on O-line general terms for my 5th pick, based on the fact that if this is a luxury pick for the back end of the draft, the Steelers have proven time and time again they can find good talent there. Maybe it's tackle, like you said. Maybe it's interior. With the Wisniewski pickup, I don't see the interior being a dire need right now. We'll see how it goes. I trust the Steelers at certain positions. Defensive back is not one of them, but offensive line and wide receiver, they are. And so I would trust that they'd be able to find, even if it was an undrafted player, that can come in and be that depth that they need. So I have offensive line 5th. You know what's crazy? None of us had quarterback in our top 5.
No. It's not
just saying. I mean, there were people that when I started this, and literally with like the live chat, someone said quarterback right away.
No, yeah, that was Lance saying it like 15 times.
No, it was someone else. I don't listen to Lance.
Lance said quarterback. Case
Keenum's gone.
Yeah. No,
the point is moved.
I had the article out today that had a lot of good dialogue with it, and a lot of people kind of agreed. I'm like, people said, "Oh, the Steelers need to upgrade, need depth at the quarterback position," and I'm like, if the Steelers aren't adding anything more at the quarterback position, it's simply because of this. They believe that if they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, that Ben Roethlisberger is the only quarterback that can do it. If they felt that someone else who was out there like that they could afford, let's say it could even be he ends up taking a much less money, Jameis Winston. If they felt that a backup quarterback could actually do and get them to the promised land, then they should have invested in it. If they don't, and they think it doesn't matter who you bring in, that no one else is going to get you there other than Ben, then you might as well ride with what you got.
Yeah,
that was the point.
No, you're right. You're right.
I just like the idea of having a Matt Moore, an older guy with experience that could win games when your quarterback is gone for maybe 3 weeks to a month.
To be honest with you, to be completely honest, I think that Mason Rudolph could win a couple games for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I really do. If you ask him to play a full slate, 14 games, almost as if they did last year, minus the benching and the injuries and stuff like that, I don't think he's there yet, or if he ever will be. But I do think that he could play that role of Ben's out for 4 games. Can you come in and win us 2, 3 games? I think he can do that, especially with this defense. I do. And I ask you, Brian, because you're the wealth of knowledge, when was the last time that we saw outside of Nick Foles in the Philadelphia Eagles, a backup come in and play at a Super Bowl caliber level?
Well, I don't want to say Super Bowl caliber level, but Matt Moore got the Miami Dolphins to the playoffs.
Well, no, I get that, but go ahead. I'll let you finish.
You know what? I mean, I don't have a great answer for that. But
do you mean the rest of the way?
Jeff Hostetler, and that was a long time ago.
Do you mean they got him the whole way and kept going, or just?
Well, let's be honest. Let's be honest. This Steelers team it's always will be a Super Bowl or bust team.
Yeah,
and they are putting all their eggs in Ben Roethlisberger's basket. We talked about that a million times, and so I understand what Brian's saying. Getting a Case Keenum would be great. What did Case Keenum sign for? I don't even know.
A lot, actually, too much.
Yeah. Well, and
so that plays a role.
Is it, wouldn't you be better off spending that money on getting more weapons around Ben Roethlisberger than it would be
that's what I'm saying,
for the backup? Because if Ben Roethlisberger goes down in week 2 again, it is what it is. I mean, when you pay a quarterback that much money, that's what you're rolling with. So that's just kind of, but if you were asking if there was a quarterback that came in and filled in order to really get the team where it needs to go, I mean, you could even look at, it was just for several games this year, but look at Teddy Bridgewater in New Orleans this year.
Right. He didn't lose.
He came in. Now, here's the thing. Would Bridgewater have been able to hold that out through the entire season in playoffs like he did?
Yeah.
Who knows? Because he didn't have to. And that's the thing. Having to actually step in and do everything, and that the other guy's never coming back, is completely different than just having to come in and fill in for 2 to 4 games.
You're right. All right.
You're right.
Thank you. Couple super chats. Maxwell Holcomb gives us $5, says, appreciate the awesome content. We appreciate the tip, and we appreciate you being here with us during the shows. And then Max Richter gives us $20. Thank you, Max. Says, hope this helps. Wyoming coal mine is still open. Amen to those coal miners. I'm from West Virginia. I know a lot of my high school classmates are now in the coal mines in West Virginia working. And so it's a big industry there, as anyone knows that's been to West Virginia. So be safe. Be safe. My next door neighbor growing up just smashed his hand in the coal mine. So it's a risky job. All right, let's go to the position preview. This is the part of the preview, Steelers preview show. Typically during the season, we preview the upcoming game. There is no upcoming game, so we are going position by position in the offseason, previewing that position. And we are at inside linebacker, a position we have talked about already today a little bit in regards to our top positional needs. Inside linebacker, the depth chart is not very long. Devin Bush, Vince Williams, Ulysses Gilbert III. Yeah, you're proud of me. Spillane, that's one.
Robert
and is there anyone else?
I don't know that they added a futures guy or anything. I mean, because even their XFL guys were outside linebackers, correct, Brian?
Correct. Yeah, they didn't get an inside guy. So that's it. So they have four inside linebackers on their
I can double check that. That's what I said. 4 was all I could name. That's why that was my number one position of need.
Well, but let's be honest. Even if there is another guy, he's probably just another guy. He's probably, as Lance would say, he's a dash. He's that guy that no one knows. He's a duplicate number guy. That's what I always call him. The guys that you have like, oh, there's number 53. Oh, that's not Pouncey. That's someone else. So, guys, they got to go inside linebacker high in the draft, don't they? Or I mean, because they're not going to find anyone quality in free agency, I doubt. Brian, what do you think?
There's one guy that's still in free agency, and I don't want to mess up his name, but they could get him fairly cheap. It's Kamale Correa of Tennessee, plays both inside and outside. I'd love for them to maybe throw 1.5-2 million a year towards that guy to get some depth, like they did with an Arthur Moats a few years ago, which was a really good pickup. Someone like that, they still have an opportunity to do something like that to bring in some depth, but they do find a lot of depth at inside linebacker. They've done it a lot over the years. You just don't mistake depth though for quality starts. I mean, right now they're top heavy, but if somebody gets hurt, they're in a lot of trouble.
Dave,
and we saw that real quick. We saw that last year. Everybody talks about the fact that in week 3, when Minka came back, the defense got better. For me, it was week 4, adding Minka and the return of Vince Williams, because teams quit running on them when Vince Williams came back.
That's right. Dave, thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny because last year was the first time the Steelers weren't at a desperate need and a problem with depth at that position. So now they're right back into it again by releasing Barron, and no one wanted them to re-sign Metakevich. That wasn't your answer there.
Right.
So that's why they've got to go at it again. And if it's not in the second round, it's got to be somewhere probably in their top 3 or 4 picks. If they have someone that they know and they see, because we don't want a repeat of 2 years ago where it was a glaring position of need and replacing Ryan Shazier and they didn't draft anybody. So they're still better off now than they were that year. But this is, the draft is the perfect place to get your depth pieces for now for someone who can step in and be the man later. So that's a position that I'm not saying where they have to draft it, but if the whole draft is over and they did not take an inside linebacker, I'm going to be like, oh, I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, I think that the type of player is going to be really important as well, because you talk about how specific NFL defenses are getting, and it's across the board. Offensively, you have those pass catching tight ends that really are never asked to be in line to block, like aka Eric Ebron. You talk about Vince Williams being the run stopping inside linebacker. Who's going to be that hybrid linebacker? Maybe that's the position that they target, and he can be labeled safety. He could be labeled linebacker because he's fluid enough to play both, and at the same time, he's your depth that you need. I think that that's going to be interesting to see who they target and what type and mold of player they're targeting. And something that I wrote for the website today, ran about 3:00, was Kevin Colbert's comments about how tough it is in regards to the fact they're not able to meet a lot of these players. And then I went on Twitter, and there was, there's all those draft nicks out there that are always putting out video of players and prospects. And someone said that, honestly, a lot of these players maybe didn't perform certain tests and things at the NFL scouting combine, assuming they were going to have their pro day, and they don't have their pro day. And so now all of a sudden NFL teams are saying, well, you know what? It's going to be interesting maybe the evaluation is different. Maybe some players that could have gone really high if they would have had their pro day fall. Who knows what's going to happen? I think the Steelers do take an inside linebacker. I think it's going to be more the safety / linebacker type, because I think that's the way that NFL defenses are going. That's just my personal opinion, though. So, anyone else? I mean, inside linebacker is pretty cut and dry. Does anyone have anything else to say about the inside linebacker?
No, but we just saw how important inside linebacker that position is just now as Jack Lambert just smashed AJ Green. And James Harrison picked up the fumble. Ben Roethlisberger has the offense on a great drive right now. Looking to score in the Madden GOAT tournament, the greatest of all time team. This is a stacked Steeler team. The game just started. I'm loving it. We're in the red zone already.
So they're playing the Bengals?
Yeah, they're playing the best Bengals team. Is that Bus or is that? Stopped at the one. I'm so excited. Their backfield is Bus and Franco, and Bus just took it down to the one. So what it is, it's the best Bengals of all time. So their receivers right now are Collinsworth, AJ Green, and Ocho Cinco against the best Steelers of all time. And they're doing this. The first round ends tonight. And if the Steelers win, they move on in the bracket. And it's pretty interesting.
So is it Blunt and Woodson as the corners?
Yeah, Blunt, Woodson, Palomalu's out there. The wide receivers.
How is this not a bloodbath already? I mean, this game would be over before it even started.
Well, this is just the Steelers' first drive of the game.
Oh, okay.
But
so is it Kajana Carter or Icky Woods at running back?
I haven't seen because they fumbled right away.
Corey Dillon.
Yeah, probably Corey Dillon. Yeah, Stallworth just got called for a hold, I think. So it's
I know who the quarterback is, John Kitna.
That's Kenny Anderson, actually.
What? They put Kenny Anderson over Boomer Esiason?
Yeah. Kenny. Well, Ben's our quarterback, and
well, that's because Ben's better, and Lance is there, and touchdown. Who scored?
Big Ben to John Stallworth. And he's like number 3 in the depth chart because number 4 in the depth chart is Lynn Swan. You have AB, Hines Ward, Lynn Swan, and John Stallworth.
Oh my gosh.
I tell you what, that's all I've got.
Yes, I know. We'll give you updates as the game progresses. In the meantime, let me put on my imaginary dunce cap here for our trivia segment because I'm the idiot of the trio. And I've got some good trivia. I don't know. This is going to be Dave. You might be able to get one of these. Really going to test Brian's knowledge. But go ahead, Deputy Dave. You're the trivia master. Go ahead.
Okay, this isn't that hard. This isn't that bad. We were looking at the inside linebacker position, and I just got to thinking about inside linebackers and those that get sacks. And the question is pretty simple. Who was the last inside linebacker to lead the Steelers in sacks? And your hint is they were tied.
I'm going to go with Potsy on that one.
Is that
James
right?
Ferrier?
Jeff for the steal?
I want to say I'll say Levon Kirkland, but I'm sure that's wrong.
Okay, I'm going to tell you now. First of all, this had to be that they were considered inside linebackers according to Pro Football Reference because it was really hard to sort. And some of these were tough because players played both positions, like a Chad Brown. So you had to look at that. But actually, it was much more recent than I thought. But it was only 6 sacks. Tied for the Steelers with 6 sacks.
It wasn't Shea's year, was it?
In 2012.
And Vince.
Would have been Lawrence Timmons.
The law dog. We always forget about Timmons. He was really good.
Awesome.
He was great.
So now the question is, take away Chad Brown when he was playing outside linebacker, but as an inside linebacker, what is the lead? Who had the most in a season for the Steelers? Now this is since '82, of course, because that's when they started the individuals as sacks and not just teams.
So what was that question again?
And now this is assuming that Pro Football Reference had him playing the right position and had him labeled correctly, but it was who led the Steelers, who had the most sacks as who was considered an inside linebacker in a season. It was not Timmons with 6. Someone had more, but they didn't lead actually they did lead the team that year, I'm pretty sure, but it was further back. Come on, Jeff. You should be able to bust this out.
Did I just say it?
No.
Oh.
Might have to bust it out of your closet.
Oh, Kendrell Bell.
Yes, it was Kendrell Bell. He had 9 in 2001.
I'm telling you, that rookie year, he was a monster.
Now
He was a monster.
Here's what's interesting. Oh, and I didn't write it down. Shoot, I didn't write it down. That might be the most ever by an inside linebacker. They had one other person that had 13 and a half ever for the NFL. But it was someone that was one of those, sometimes they played inside, sometimes they played outside, and it was for the Saints. It was like I can't remember. It was like draft names are coming into my head. It started with a C, but I can't remember what it was.
Well, there was a reason why I got that jersey, because that rookie year, when he was defensive rookie of the year, he was amazing. I mean, you were thinking this is the next inside linebacker for the next decade plus. And then we saw what
ankle
happened.
mesh.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it, Dave? For you?
Yeah, I thought that was fun.
That's good. That was good. Brian, do you have something?
Yeah, I do. I have a trivia question, and it surrounds an inside linebacker.
Is this hold on? Stop for a second. Is this USFL or XFL?
No.
Please tell me.
Well, it's close.
Oh,
yeah, I will say that Lambert's on fire. He just destroyed Corey Dillon and forced a punt, so the Steelers have the ball back. So I'm pretty excited. Here we go.
Wait. Who's returning punts?
Antoine Randall. No, please, Lord, not Antoine.
I did not. I was talking. I was actually doing my job.
Ryan Switzer.
I did not get
Ryan
to see it.
out there.
I want to know if the Steelers have to punt. Who's their punter? It's got to be.
I'm not sure who it was. And I can't go back. But
Daniel Sepulveda is their punter.
No, Bobby Walden's their punter. Their kicker's Gary Anderson.
I was going to say it's got to be Gary Anderson.
Yeah,
but I thought it would be Craig Colquitt. If you ask me,
that's what I said. I thought it would be Colquitt. But
I said
this is
all right. Come on,
get to the trivia.
I'm sorry.
Well, I was about to. So here we go. The last Joe Green Great Performance Award as Steeler Rookie of the Year to go to an undrafted player was who?
Rookie of the Year, undrafted.
I don't know.
Jeff was either frozen or deep in thought.
No.
I'm just trying to think of an undrafted player that played a lot. You know,
it might have been a year that there was really no rookie that did much, and so they just kind of. I can't think of it. Go ahead.
Well,
Dave.
it was a year.
Give us a year, and maybe I can help you.
Or an inside linebacker. It was a year when their number one draft pick was the victim of having his jaw broken because of a bounty.
A what?
When the Ravens put a bounty on Hines Ward and Shard Mendenhall, and they got Mendenhall.
Busted up his shoulder.
Mendenhall, I thought was
he had his jaw broken and his shoulder in the same play.
Really? I didn't hear about the jaw.
So, for Mendenhall that year.
Maybe I'm wrong about the jaw. I'll have to double check.
I think you're wrong.
It was that year, 2008. It was the Super Bowl year.
2008. Who was their rookie? Who would have been rookie of the year in 2008? I mean, it wasn't.
I know. Was it? No, Vince Williams was drafted.
Vince Williams, and he was later on. And I know Foster wasn't, but he was after that, wasn't he?
Nobody. Okay, I'm gonna draw it out just because Lance said just give the answer.
Yes,
I'm gonna now draw it out.
I agree with Lance. Just give the answer.
So, Patrick Bailey.
Man, that was a bad draft class. Then
that was Lima Swede was your number 2 pick that year. Yeah, that was that 2008. Yeah, that wasn't a great draft class, but Patrick Bailey was your rookie of the year that year for the Steelers. Inside linebacker.
There you go. That's a good one. That was a stumper. I never would have guessed that name. Never would have guessed that name.
No, me here. I still couldn't tell you who he is.
All right, here we go. My trivia goes back to Super Bowl 43. I wrote an article about watching that on Sunday, and it was pretty cool and it was nostalgic. It's just some trivia. I think Brian, I guarantee you Brian's going to get the first one. We'll see if Dave can get it first. Who was the head official for Super Bowl 43?
Oh, for 43. Oh.
Brian,
I watched it last week. Oh,
I just watched it too. Hockey League?
No, it wasn't Hockey League.
Was not the
Hawk. I don't know if I know. It was it Dean Blandino?
Nope.
Then it's one of the guys that now does the who's the other one that does the
Well,
stuff.
there's a lot of them.
It was Blandino. It was I can't remember the other names.
Al River.
No.
Not River. Territory.
No, that wasn't Gene. It wasn't Mean Gene. It was Mr. Terry McCauley.
Terry
McCauley.
That's a good
I
one.
thought you know that. And I was going to say for double the points, who sang the national anthem in Super Bowl 43?
Oh, I'm sure Brian knows this.
Gosh,
We know the halftime show was Bruce Springsteen and the East Street
Yeah,
Band.
I could tell you 45 because it was Christina Aguilera who sang the.
I'll be honest with you. Every time the
know.
Steelers were in the Super Bowl, I could not watch the pregame. I was too nervous. I had to distract myself until basically kickoff. So I don't think I even watched the national anthem.
Oh, someone got it right.
I do not know.
Someone
Jennifer
got it right.
Hudson.
Joshua Shields says Jennifer Hudson. Very good. There you go. Some Super Bowl 43 trivia.
By the way, she is fantastic.
Sure. I don't know much about
Have you ever seen Dreamgirls?
Nope.
No.
Do I look like a guy that's seen Dreamgirls?
Dreamgirls is a really good movie. And Eddie Murphy should have won the Oscar for it, but then he comes out with Norbit, and they're like, we're not nominating this guy.
Oh, he
should have won for that. That was
nominated,
a great movie.
though. He was up for it.
Yeah, he was nominated, but he didn't
win it.
He didn't win it.
Well, he might not. I don't know if he was up for the Oscar. He was at least up for the Gold Globe. We'll see.
All right.
Yeah, Eddie, fantastic.
It's fine. Just say that stuff for the after party.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do rapid fire questions here. So you got to keep quick and concise, no yes or no answers, but we don't want to ramble on. I did it on Twitter. I just said, does anyone have any questions possibly for a segment on the podcast? Had a few. Here's one. What does it say about Pittsburgh that they brought on the most XFL players in the NFL? Dave, we'll start with you.
That they're willing to take a chance on somebody.
Okay. Brian?
Got nothing to lose.
I'm going to say that it shows that they've played professional football outside of, playing in the NCAA. It's more tape. It's more tape for them to look over. It's more games for them to gather information from. We see draft picks bust all the time. So for me, that's what we go. Okay, next question. What do we or the Steelers do if Ben comes back and isn't Ben anymore? Dave.
Suffer.
Yeah. I know exactly what Lance would say if he was on the show, but go ahead, Brian.
You ride it out and make a decision at the end of the year.
Lance would go a la Clubber Lang in Rocky 3 and just say, pain.
Yeah. I said so.
What's a prediction? Pain.
Yeah.
It would be a repeat of 2019, except it depends on they didn't clarify did he get hurt or anything like that. So next, if that happens, if Ben comes back and isn't Ben anymore, does that put the Steelers automatically in rebuild mode? Dave, go ahead.
At that position, but they as a team don't do rebuild mode. They just try to get stronger somewhere else, like on the defense, and have that carry the team.
Brian?
Yes.
Okay, so full on just rebuild it. I got to go with Dave a little bit more here and think that you got to try to find a quarterback. Maybe you go out in free agency and you try to find someone like Case Keenum that might be able to patch it together. Someone responded to that on Twitter and said, welcome to the 1980s all over again. So it very well could be that. All right. Next question. This is a yes or no. Is Juju Smith-Schuster still a number one wide receiver? Dave?
Yes or no?
Oh my gosh, that's such a Dave answer.
No, I'm asking. So you're saying just a yes or no?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty simple. You either agree or you don't.
Based on 2019, then it's no.
Okay. Brian?
Yes. He's still number one Debo with a big sack, by the way.
Well, but what's happening on the game though, Brian?
Well, it's 7-0. The Bengals are on the 1 yard line, and now he sacked him for like 11.
Yeah, I don't think he got my joke.
I'm trying to figure out where Brian is more distracted. When he's hosting his show with the live chat or when the Steelers game's on in this show. I don't know.
Hey, I did well both. I think Juju is a number one wide receiver still. He needs just like Antonio Brown needed some help. He needs some help. I think now he has it.
I think he will be. I just don't think he was based on last year.
I'm going to say that he is. I think he was hurt last year, but we know he was hurt last year. I think that he'll actually have, he'll have every chance to redeem himself. Last question here before we call it a show and move over to the after party. What happens with Vance McDonald now that they've signed Ebron? Meaning that we found this out when we, Mr. Cliff Harris is still a punk, and he wrote a couple articles about how the Steelers, they don't run a lot of 2 tight end stuff, especially not, unless they're in the red zone is a possibility. So how do you handle the tight ends with the signing of Ebron in terms of Vance McDonald? They're both healthy. What do you think, Dave?
I think you do everything completely different now because the reason you didn't run 2 tight ends and stuff a lot before is because you didn't have the right tight end to do what Ebron does and split out wide and everything else. I think because he's such a different tight end that now opens up some good possibilities to get them both on the field at the same time, 1, and 2, Ebron's not going to be out there on the obvious running plays. He's just not.
Right. Brian?
When Jesse James and Vance McDonald were together for the first season, they combined for pretty close to a 1,000-yard season. So now that the offensive coordinator is back and you might have some actual innovation in the game in Ben Roethlisberger, he's got weapons. I think it's going to work out just fine. They will find somebody disagree with me saying that Vance McDonald's not a playmaker. Vance McDonald makes plays. He made plays in that Seattle game last year. He can make plays with the right quarterback.
I agree with you there. I agree with both of you. I think Wes put it well when he said they'll run 2 tight ends with Matt Canada as their passing coordinator. He said OC, but we'll see how that goes. By the look of Brian's face, the Bengals just punched it in for a touchdown to tie it up.
No, John Leclerc just sacked Roethlisberger in the end zone for safety.
They turned it over on
they
downs.
Stopped them. Yeah, the Bengals turned it over on downs to Pittsburgh, and then now we just got a safety.
All right.
But hey, as we saw the other night, a safety didn't kill him in that Pittsburgh Arizona replay.
That's true. So on that note, this is the end of the preview. We're going to head over to the after party. We hope that you join us over there. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. If you're listening in audio platform, understand that the preview gets published at 4 a.m. and the after party gets published at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're hearing us thinking, go where? I'm here. It'll be published at 1, so check us out there. Make sure you like the show. We appreciate all you. We'll see you in a few.